Well, surprise, surprise. It is a box. It's a mostly square box and very tightly packed. You can barely hear anything moving inside it at all. And what this is the backer rewards for the latest Impact Miniatures Dice Kickstarter project, wherein there was an option to back at a level that included Christmas delivery. Now, the project ended just a few weeks ago. And as soon as the funds cleared, basically immediately after the Kickstarter concluded, I received a notification that my package was in the mail. And if you'll recall, I'm based in Korea. And so this has traveled from the US, oddly, to Japan, where it disappeared for a while, and then appeared here today. Now, what makes this extra special is that there is a hold on products from the United States into Korea due to the global pandemic. Certain countries have been identified as having, a significant rate of infection, and so parcels have to sit in quarantine for a while. Now, this particular Kickstarter was primarily aimed at providing dice sets for Dungeon Crawl Classics in some new and unusual colors, but also some, classic and standard colors as well. The Kickstarter was billed as Snow Cone DCC dice. Well, I didn't go for any of the snow cone colors because I'm just not a snow cone kind of guy, but I did get some very nice marble sets, and that's what we'll be looking at today. All right. With the tape cut, and I've spared you the horror of that cutting action, we'll now go in through the bottom of the box. All right. Now, right here on top, you're seeing some red and white dice, and you're saying, hey, I thought you didn't go for snow cone. Well, this is Black Cherry Sundae, I'll have you know. It's not snow cone, it's Black Cherry Sundae. So I'll take them out of the plastic here in a second. But I went for a black marble die, and I think it should be obvious that there's some marbling going on there. A little difficult to tell through the plastic and, of course, on video. But the Black Cherry Sundae, wow, that's really dramatic. Like blood on snow, isn't it? Okay, so a whole bunch of stuff in here. To do your backer rewards, you're given a certain number of dice sets that you can select, and you go through and identify which colors you want, and then there's the opportunity to do different add-ons. Sometimes single dice are available, sometimes they weren't, and sometimes different sets of dice, different numbers of dice, like a 7 die set or an 11 die set or 14 die set, something like that, or a whole run of all the very cool dice that Impact does, including all the odd-numbered dice. Remember, they currently have dice running in evens from 2 to 30 and in odds from 3 to 21. So, it's pretty amazing, really. Anyway, let's get these things out of the plastic. Actually, let's hold off on getting them out of the plastic. Let's look at the individual bags, right? So we have a lot of different bags. These represent each of the individual choices that I made for dice sets and then different add-ons that I was interested in having, right? Such as D30s and extra D12s, because I play a few games that use pools of D12s, and I really like the D12. I think like most gamers out there. I don't know, some of you may have seen a recent poll that ran around saying that the D12 was the worst die. Oh, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And completely out of touch with most cycles in gaming where people lament the lack of uses for the D12. It's really kind of funny. Anyway, we've got odd-shaped dice, which we'll look at a little bit more closely, and we've got all kinds of focus and in focus going on, so now it's really time to get stuff out of the plastic. Okay, here's the first set to be taken out of the package. It's an 11-die RPG set. Kind of convenient. It has the radical D4, has 4d6, a d8, d%, an amazing d12, and 2d20. Kind of useful for a variety of primarily fantasy games, but there you go. I keep coming back to the idea of that survey about the D12 that makes me laugh. When we state it flatly, like how could anybody dislike the D12? There you have it, right? So it's just an effort to poke the bear, as it were, asking those questions that are designed to be negative to provoke a response so that lots and lots of people will drive traffic to that person. Pretty basic emotional manipulation, wouldn't you say? Anyway, the add-ons are 3 additional D6s, are what I selected, 3 additional D12s, the amazing D12, 1 additional D3, or 1 D3 as an addition, 3 more D20s, and a D30. Why 3 more D20s? Won't that make 5, you say? Well, yes, because that's the number that you need for games like 2D20 through Modifius. So why not have 5? Why do you need 5 D12s or 4 D12s? Well, fantastic games like Broken Rooms or the original version of Colonial Gothic or Thousand Suns, things like that. These are games that call on you to have a number of D12s available. All right, so let's get in close and take a look at the numbering on the dice. Now, different people have, of course, different tastes when it comes to color combinations, and different people have different requirements when it comes to their visual acuity. So I'm not entirely sure that marbled dice of any color are an ideal solution for people who struggle with their vision. However, the choice of gold for these dice, and particularly for the black marble dice, which we'll be looking at in a moment, seems to have been an excellent choice for it to stand out on most of the faces. There's some difficulty on a face like this, like on the 30 here, where there is very dark red and light red and white. It doesn't stand out quite as much, but good font choice, good font size, nice deep numbers, and so far, looking at all of these dice, I'm not seeing any where the numbering is flawed, right? So quality is important to me, as I'm sure it's important to you, and you'll be glad to know that quality is very important to Impact Miniatures, because I don't think I've ever found one of their dice where the paint hasn't been full and rich and complete. All right, let's look at the other set. Okay, the second set, the black marble set. We see different degrees of blackness, giving us kind of a graphite, a silvery gray effect. Right? Different swirls. Legibility is very high. So if, vision is something that you're struggling with and dice are getting harder to read, the numbers on these dice, by die type, of course, are quite large and legible. And this contrast of the glittering gold paint with the dark surface of the dice on all of its faces might be a good choice. All right, so this is the standard 11 die set. It occurs to me I didn't really talk about the D4. This is Impact's design for the D4. It actually rolls. It's not a threat like its violent, original, pyramid-shaped relative. So, pretty nice. Let's bring in the add-ons. All right, the add-ons. 6 more of the incredible, can't believe we ever did without it, D12s. 3 more D20s, 3 more D6, a D3, 3 more D4s, and of course, sitting there, giant in the center, a D30. Going through backer kit was quite simple. There were, for many of the dice, for the, let's call them, the main offerings of the Kickstarter project, you could order some singles, but for the most part, you were ordering in sets of 3. So that made it quite easy to get the kind of numbers that you were looking for. All right. So there we have it. I guess the only thing left is, of course, an example roll. While we watch the dice fall and roll and tumble and collide, let's take this time to talk about their physical qualities. In the hand, they are firm and heavy. It's a comparable feeling to Chessex, very solid feeling dice that hit the rolling surface firmly. They are highly polished. The edges are uniformly rounded, and there has been great attention paid to centering the numbers on each of the faces. They're very glossy. You can see a lot of light reflections. So again, as we were talking about, if you have difficulty in your advancing age or for whatever other reason for reading dice, choose your colors carefully. This is something that we all will have to consider as time marches on. I've got some dice now that have really, really tiny numbers on them, and I'm thinking to myself, were they always so tiny? So, very, very high quality dice, good weight, good rolling power, but also good stopping power. Just what we're looking for. This concludes this video about just 2 of the excellent choices available from Impact Miniatures as a result of the recent Kickstarter. Some exclusives were made available through Goodman Games for DCC, but if you're interested in these dice, check out Impact Miniatures.